Welcome to the What's Up Verdict podcast, where we fashion ourselves television judge and jury. My name is JJ Crowder. I'm here with my co-host, Alec Burgess.
Let's get it.
And returning after a long hiatus away from us, Casey Ridge.
Sorry for the swears.
Sorry, not sorry. We appreciate you tuning in, especially on these live ones. If you're listening after the fact, we love that too. Go ahead and hit that like, follow, subscribe, bell notification, all those fun buttons so that you can keep up with our episodes. What special group of people should they tell this time about our podcast, Alec?
Your therapist.
I love it. Tell your therapist about us too. That'll help us grow the podcast. We appreciate it. We are here live again. TV's back, my friends. And so not only will we be doing The Last of Us, continuing on that adventure, but we're here to talk about the Amazon original second season of The Legend of Vox Machina. We left Mattson out of this one because that guy would just ruin all the fun of this show. And we brought in Casey, who
I'm way more fun.
Yeah, I mean, obviously way more fun, much nicer to look at, as well as has a very deep knowledge of Vox Machina. So that's all three of us to do. So I will preface this. We're going to be very careful. I learned my lesson on House of the Dragon. I got in some trouble on comments and emails because yeah, we had some people that watched this live and they were like, man, we know more about the future because you know too much about the future of this. And I was like, that's true. So we're not going to spoil what's coming in the series. We can hint at some things, keep it subtle, but no specifics, like I did with The Last of Us. It's difficult, but let's stick with the framework of the first 3 episodes because they do release them in 3-episode bursts. There's 12 episodes, so we still got 3 more sessions to go of this. So we will be doing this 3 more times with this show.
I feel like that was specifically geared toward me.
No, it was me. It's a reminder, and for me, because it
sounds like you're targeting Casey, actually.
For sure, for sure. You've already closeted me. You pulled
I just
me
keep
out
see
of
your
the
eyes
cool
going
kid's
down.
closet. Like, hey, she's actually a closet geek. She's really not as cool as she makes herself seem to be. Like, fuck you, dude.
Bitch, I am in so much trouble later because of this, Alec. Thanks. I had a great rebuttal. I'm gonna walk out of this room and get hurt. No, it really wasn't. It was geared at all of us because you've never done it before on a show that you can ruin, and Alec and I have done it a few times. So it's more for us nerds, and then welcoming you to the nerd party so that you don't make the same mistake that we've made. But let's jump in. I will be honest, I love the Briarwood arc from the show, like the live play. And I don't get me wrong, please do not misunderstand. I thoroughly loved the first season of this show. It's hilarious, it's raunchy, it's irreverent, and it fits perfectly with the story they were trying to tell. But from a live play to TV translation, this played better in that first season, played better in live play for me, as much as I enjoyed it. This season so far to me is playing better here than it did live play. And I think part of that is like the villains. You get the dragons. It as cool as it is to envision the dragons and see them in the live play, to me, like having it on the TV and you have, the voices and you got I just think it's cool. So I've been really excited to see what they did with the Chroma Conclave, and now seeing them on the screen, I'm thoroughly enjoying myself.
Yeah, I forgot how violent this show was. Because I haven't seen or watched the first season in quite a bit, and it just kicks off. Like, nope, this is right back to the blood and gore and violence that I fell in love with.
Yeah.
But the storyline. Like, how the fuck can you possibly say you couldn't remember the violence?
Well, because I was sitting there, and all of a sudden, there's this guard twitching outside of a bubble with his hand on the glass, slowly going
based
down.
on a Dungeons and Dragons campaign.
Yeah, but I forgot
the whole
that they
point
went
and the
there.
reason people fucking play it is to fight. It's
but
dungeon
this is just
crawls.
over the top violence.
And in an animated show, which I love.
But I forgot that they did that.
It's not like to the level of The Boys.
Well, that's fair.
Because the level of the boys is just to be more shock and awe. Versus this is like, if you had a dragon who was breathing acid down on you, this is what would happen.
That's fair.
So I was like, oh, shoot. I was like, yes, I remember now. But I totally forgotten just how violent it was. And when I shot, it was so happy.
Oh, yeah. Well, the violence and then like the absolute raunchy jokes, like you know what I mean? Like just fits our humor. Like one of the first things is Scanlan making the ass out of his Scanlan hand, like magic.
The Lanny's gonna be a little bit rough, gonna save our lives with some butt stuff.
And then Grog's like, it's a good thing these titties were here. What a great yeah, I just love that I'm with you. I didn't forget. I have been very much looking forward to more mayhem, violence, and raunchiness, but I was excited that I get excited that they lean into, because this is how they are in the freaking live play. Only,
you know what those titties reminded me of, though?
What?
Did you ever watch the very first Simpsons episode where they had all of those like Jello mold bullshits where everybody in town was carrying around these Jello molds? If you haven't, Google it, but that's all I could see was the very original Simpsons pilot and their Jello molds with different shit in it.
That's funny. I don't remember that, but it's been decades since I watched the first
You're so
Simpsons.
Old.
Deep cut.
Shut up.
And yet I look like I'm 12. Still get carded at the liquor store.
Here's the best part about this case is I don't think Alec was alive when the first episode of Simpsons came out.
Easily not gonna happen if it's decades.
I mean, I'm pretty sure
the graphics are terrible.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the first Simpsons was older than you, but
we're gonna have to verify this now, because now I'm curious. You gotta know date, year.
1989.
Yep, I wasn't born yet.
Yeah.
It would have been 4 more years before I graced the world with my presence.
Yep. There you go. There you go. The benefits of being old sometimes, dude. I got to see the original series. Actually, I was 8 years old, so it all kind of went over my head, but I was alive for it. Case, you had some, I don't want to say criticisms, but you weren't a fan of this story arc, right? In the live play?
Man,
are we going to say...
I
wasn't, generally speaking, I was not a fan of
the first campaign. That's right. Yeah.
I hate, I absolutely hate Percy. I hate like live play, the show. It doesn't matter. I hate Percy. And so that kind of bleeds over. So any arc in this that doesn't target him, so usually anything that's not including the Briarwoods, I prefer over others.
Yeah.
Because I hate him so much.
It's fair.
He's got a very hateable face.
Let's be
honest. Even Rob didn't like him at the gate.
He is so domineering. And he has to butt into fucking everything, even if it doesn't include him. And he's the most hateful shit is coming. Did you just say he was a woman?
No, he's a nobleman.
Well, he needs to put his fucking vagina away.
Jesus.
I can say it.
Hang on, I was just saying, you were just about to criticize me for thinking I said a woman, and then you say that. How back-ass words is that shit?
All right, here's the thing. I am like a strong, opinionated fucking bully.
Well, that's fair.
So, as that person, yeah, no, he needs to put my vagina away.
Okay, that's fair. Anyway. Yeah, and that's it. It was always a conflict in our home because I enjoy Percy, but that it has to do with I love Taliesin, so I enjoy it because he's awkward as balls, and I think that's fantastic. So I love, by proxy, I love all of his characters.
Taliesin grew on me in campaign 2.
Yeah. As Caduceus. You didn't as I say, you didn't like him at first, but you like Caduceus. Anyway, we're straying. See, this is the problem with because I do it.
But at least we're talking about campaign 2 and not the shit that happened. Back to this episode, like, I'm not gonna lie, the first 2 episodes of this season of the show, I was bored out of my fucking mind.
Is that partially, though, because you couldn't remember? Because you spent a lot of those first 2 asking me a lot of questions about...
I spent the majority of the first 3 being confused about, like, is this really where that happened? Is this how that happened? Like, I could not remember, but I think it's more because we're into, like, more serious shit, and so it wasn't as funny as the first, and it was... the first 2 episodes specifically are setup episodes. They're not.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like you have to work it through the backstory. So I'm excited to see where it goes.
Yeah. Well, and I found it interesting because that was the first 2 episodes of the first season, maybe even the first 3. I'd have to go back and rewatch it. We're introducing these characters as a whole, and so the raunchy shenanigans and the ridiculousness was really on display. And I think that is a big, comparison piece for these 2 seasons, because now we know these characters. We know they're ridiculous. We know they're raunchy, but we know they're fun. And so they didn't have to do that as much. They just jumped right in, and now we're getting backstory. We're getting to see the more intense, and these people trying to actually redeem themselves from the ridiculousness that they are, which is an interesting take. But yeah, I do remember, like, we spent a lot of it going, did they really take on Voragall? And did they fight the White Dragon at Castle Grayskull? I was like, yeah, it was actually quite a long fight. And they almost all died. Like, it was, yeah, I mean, it was, she's like, oh, okay. And then go, but that was like 4 or 5 times. She's like, really? Did that happen here?
Yeah, for some reason, I thought that they're like, is it a keep? What do we call it?
Yeah, it's their keep. They can't use the name from because in the live play, it was Castle Grayskull, which is part of He-Man, so they can't use it in the show. So yeah, it's their keep.
For some reason, I thought that remained safe. Like, I remember townspeople going there, but I don't remember. I could not remember from the live play that got attacked.
Yeah.
I just remember them, like, transporting there. So I did remember that part.
So it technically didn't get destroyed, even in the live play. There was some damage to one of the spires, but before they leave, they chase off Voragall. And then before they leave, Pike uses one of her pikey things to get a higher being. My monk has the ability to do this, but like you can call on a higher being that you can then employ for a certain amount of gold, and they had this being come in to rebuild Castle
They basically have a servant going back behind them, cleaning shit up.
Exactly. They basically had a god come in, like a demigod come in and clean up Castle Grayskull while they teleported to Whitestone. And then they came back to it a couple of times throughout the campaign during the Chroma Conclave War. And then we missed there's a whole section in the live play where there was a skull that they got from the original dragon, from Brimscythe's cave, that was trying to get them, like, if they destroyed it, there was the glowing eyes, and it would talk to them, like, especially Grog, and it would say, if you destroy me, I'll grant a wish. And so there was this big argument going on about destroying it before Voragall got there. But so they left it, but it doesn't add any value because eventually they forgot the skull was there. But they have this big fight in Percy's freaking basement laboratory.
I thought that was the green dragon that had that skull.
No, it was in Brimscythe's human form house before they went into his cave, is where they found it. As the General Krieg or whatever. Anyway. I will say what I am excited for, because one of I didn't appreciate it now or before when I was watching it the first few times that I've watched the live play, but like the whole storyline with Vax and the Matron of Ravens, and Vex, and like to me, Vex and Vax were always the most interesting characters in the campaign because they had so much just together, then drama with each different party. They're just all over the place, the two of them.
They were the most compelling.
Yeah.
And
that
probably
I think comes from
charismatic.
who they were playing, who they're played by as well.
Oh, sure.
I mean, Grog's always my favorite character in the whole damn thing, but that's just because he's Grog, and Travis is the greatest freaking. He's hilarious. But those two are fun, so I'm really excited to see how they're going to play this whole Machina of Ravens thing out. And I told Casey when the 3rd episode ended on that cliffhanger, I was like, well, that's rude. I was like, there's some people right now that are like, what the and we'll leave that alone. But yeah, it was interesting end to the episode too.
I can't wait for this isn't going to ruin anything, I promise. Like the vestiges and how if they play it like the live play where you get snippets of backstory as they go throughout, like that I'm looking forward to, because we still don't have backstory on, clearly Grog and Pike have a relationship. He always picks her up and puts him on his shoulder. And so I'm excited for that part, the more human moments of them. And I think that will make up for the seriousness of kind of where it's been headed, because the comedic shit gets less
true.
Wild. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there's less space for it, so it's not quite as. There's still plenty of it. Like, I can't
for sure. Like,
there's a dragon fight coming that I cannot wait for because.
But
of
it
how
changes, right? I mean,
fight,
it's not such immature humor. Like, it changes into more adult humor. So I'm excited for that part.
Can I say?
I can't get over when Voragol's coming to Castle Grayskull, and Vex is like, lock the gates. Like, that's gonna do anything.
No shit.
Yeah.
And, the next frame, Voragol just busts through the wall. I was dying, and I can't remember, but I hope it happened that way, where Laura Bailey just spur of the moment was like, "Let's lock the gates."
Oh, and Matt Mercer's like,
"Okay, it's a fucking dragon. It can fly." Pretty sure even if it couldn't burn through the gates, it can fucking fly over it.
I was just dying because it's that knee-jerk reaction, right? Oh shoot, something's coming! Close the door.
Yeah. Hurry, that'll keep him out. Like,
I laughed way too hard for way too long.
Well, and to me, it's like a connection. Like, I think there's some subtlety to that people don't realize, because that's also a joke. Like, they have such a hard time with doors that they just assume everybody else does. And then there was like a later joke with Grog trying to go into the Temple of the Machina of Ravens. He's like shoving on the door, and he's like,
"Pull door.
It's a pull, buddy."
And the whole campaign, it was doors.
Just every one of them. Well, and you don't get to see them go into, because there's a moment between where they're at, where they go to Vasselheim, and they're still in the Cloudtop district while the fight's early on. They go see the group of thieves that Vax used to be a part of, and they have another door that in the campaign just absolutely kicked the shit out of them. And it, like, that was the moment when they're like, fucking doors. Like, it's just, and it continued through the whole campaign. And I remember, Alec, you watching it because you just didn't believe me.
Yeah, no.
He didn't believe me when I was telling him. And then he's going through the campaign. He's like, what is it with the doors?
Yeah. Yeah. And I like that they put in the little inside jokes, right? So like last season of the show when what's his name? Sam's character.
Scanlan,
right? When he turns into the dinosaur. And he's
a triceratops.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, you hope that they leave those parts in it, and they do, which is awesome, because there are lots of people that wouldn't.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's so much coming that I just cannot wait for, that are just subtle little silly things. But
so I have a question, because I couldn't remember.
Yeah.
But the moment in kind of when they're fighting Voragol, right? And Scanlan sends the illusion out.
Yeah.
Did it fail because it was a bad dice roll?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. I thought so, because I was like, and then the whole dialogue between Backflip, like, am I really that predictable? Yeah. What do you mean? What do you mean, like, starting to be predictable?
Yeah, getting there.
Okay, because that was another moment which had me just dying. I was like, that's got to be a dice roll.
Yeah. It's absolute
or a
failure.
Matt Mercer learning from his mistakes.
No, yeah, it was an absolute. Well, it was a combination of the two, because you saw in this episode, like, his eyes glowed. Vorgal had magic of his own that allowed him to see through the illusion, but it was an absolute one. Like, and that's Sam. Like, and I love it when Sam rolls like shit, because a lot of times he'll look like he's rolled real good. He's like, one. But yeah, it was an absolute dog shit roll that they saw through it, and then yeah, it was funny. It was funny.
I look forward to Grog. Like,
yeah,
Grog comes in like some clutch moments, and that's Travis's genius. Like, watching that character have to be dumb when Travis is not an unintelligent guy. But watching him play dumb, and then he grabs hold of these really smart moments, and it's always clutch, like the perfect moment to say something, to like
6, okay?
Yeah, or like to ask questions. Yeah, he dumb. Like,
I was telling Casey, and I'm okay. I don't know if it's ruining.
It's not going to ruin it. It
so
won't.
I got all excited because we were having a hard time remembering, like, the order in which they get the vestiges and which dragon they take on first and all that stuff. And so we were kind of rehashing the campaign from the live play and going through it. And I had this moment where, again, there's a dragon fight coming that I cannot wait for, because it has some of the most ridiculous shit that happens during it.
You see it in the preview, so I don't think you're going to ruin it because you see it in the preview.
Oh yeah, well, when Vax and Scanlan are talking, and they're like, "We got to get inside that dragon," and he's like, "Not through its mouth. That's a mouthful of ass." And he goes, "Nope, the other way." Yeah. In that same moment, there's a piece of that fight where Grog actually gets his intelligence goes up for a reason, and I'm going to leave it at that. And I'm hoping that they have some sort of like throwaway line or something, because it's one of the funniest moments in the live play of the whole of campaign 1. And next week when we do this and talk about it, if it's on that set of episodes, I will completely explain that moment. I don't want to ruin what happens to Grog to make him smarter, but yeah, I'm with Casey, like, especially because we're starting to see the sword from what's his face. And we get to see how stupid Grog really is. Feed me, I'm hungry. I am hungry. Like, it's just, he's so dumb. But to your point, and Casey and I have had many conversations about this, Travis Willingham is not. I mean, this guy's the CEO of their company. There's a reason he's the CEO. He's smart. And he also has a way of getting, like, he's very charismatic, so he's good at doing the right things. And so watching him play Dungeons and Dragons on the live play is some of my favorite, because you can sit and watch him when he's not doing anything. You can see him scheming. How can I make this? How can I do this? What can I do here to actually elevate the players around him? And Grog's the same way, and they've played him that way in this show. He's just this big dumb oaf, but at times he has these moments where he elevates the team because of who he is and the fact that I'm looking forward to how they're going to play out with that damn sword and show it throughout, because there's a lot of cool stuff coming with Grog.
Well, and you get to see, like, if you watch the live, what are you calling it? The live action?
The live play.
The live play. As Grog, like, he asks questions, and because Grog is stupid, and so he plays into, he'll see everybody not going the right way, like they're missing information, they're not getting it, and then he'll ask questions, and it completely turns around where they go or what they do. So, like, as a support character, I don't know that there's a better one.
No, he's great. Absolutely phenomenal.
And then
the bidet joke.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead.
I do wish that they had explained, like, I wish they had explained the beard.
Yes.
Because him getting, like, what he had to do to get the beard in the live play, like, he had to roll and get so much for him to grow a beard. And you don't know it's because his race doesn't have facial hair. But watching, like, the funniness of the shit coming that happens about the beard, I'm excited for that.
I'm just glad that they put the beard in there, because you're right. Like, he talked, and again, there's a lot of things that they can't go down the complete and total road, because then they have to give, like, the race, like you're talking about, is owned by Wizards of the Coast technically, so they can't throw in that he's the type of barbarian that he is. They can't use that because it's not. It's part of the open license, but at the same time, it's not.
They'd have to pay, right? They'd
Yeah,
have
because
to pay or
it's
give away
specific.
royalties, or
And yeah, Casey's right. They don't. His whole race doesn't grow hair at all, and so he's always, and he gets this belt, but he has to roll for the beard. And I love the joke because they were fighting those fish people, and the one like cut off half the beard. That was I don't remember if you remember, Alec, but that was a prank. Because the other thing that you haven't seen, they showed it in the first season, but I'm sure they're going to leave it alone to a certain degree. But Vax and him, you were to always be playing pranks on each other.
Ball tag.
Yeah, they always nut
that was a Vax
and
prank. Like he shaved off half of his beard while he was sleeping.
Yeah, Travis rolls for it, finally gets the beard. Grog gets super excited, goes to sleep, and Vax immediately shaves half the fucking thing off. and Travis was so pissed because he's like, I'll never roll it again. And so when he wakes up, like, and even Matt was like, that's cold-blooded. That is messed up. So I loved that they had that moment without it being that moment, because it's hard to, you got to take time in a show like that to put that in there. But when it cuts halfway off, and he's like, don't mess with the beard. It was so great. So great.
I was hoping it was going to come in the translucent fishing line.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That would have made me chuckle.
That would have.
I will say there is something which I'm sure is going to make it into the show, and I'm dreading it. Keyleth drunk.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
we've already seen in the preview the whole hallucination piece.
Yeah. I know it's coming because the preview alludes to it. And that live play episode almost turned me off.
Yeah, she gets a little out there.
I almost turned it off and didn't go back. I was that annoyed.
I'm sure they'll play it down. They showed her drunk in the first season, and then it was only like 2 seconds, and they moved on. And the hallucination piece is a whole different thing that you see in the trailer. That's I'm pretty sure that happens when they go to the Fae realm. I'm just looking forward to because Matt Mercer does like the sounds of Trinket, like all the bear sounds and shit. But there's a special guest appearance that's coming in to play Trinket during that moment, to voice Trinket. I'm not going to say who it is. Don't look it up. Just let it be and see if you can guess, because I am excited for who's going to be voicing Trinket the Bear.
That's some bullshit there.
I know. I'll tell you offline. I don't want to ruin it for anybody watching or listening. And I'm excited to see if anybody, shoot us an email, host@whatsupverdict.com if you figure it out. Don't cheat. Yeah, don't look it up. Cheating's lame.
We have talked a lot about like what's coming. We haven't spent very much time talking about what did.
And I think,
well, that's not the
true.
important stuff.
Is that because is that because it's setup episodes? Like, were you as bored with the first few as I was? Bored might be the wrong. No,
yeah,
I mean, bored is probably the right word for me.
I really enjoyed it because the way that I looked at it was almost their first season. That was like a pilot season.
Yeah.
Right. Where you could come in and start to finish. They had the Briarwood arc, and standalone, it was amazing. This, it starts being like, the second kind of, there's a lot of story before and a lot of story after, and we're expanding the world. So to see like the Chroma Conclave come in, and now you get to move outside of Tal'Dorei to go to all these different places, and you start to realize how big of a world Matt Mercer built. So I was going, oh, cool, they're starting to get into the fun stuff. And that's just because I love world building. So I wasn't necessarily, like, I knew there were setup episodes, but I wasn't, I'll use your word, I wasn't bored by it at all. Just because it was, for me, I was like, okay, now we're getting to see a little bit bigger of this world, and all that cool stuff that goes along with it.
And I'll say this, I wasn't bored. I had a great time. Casey can attest. I was over there giggling and shit. My problem with, and this was the same for me with the first season, it's not even a problem. It's a point of view that I think all three of us probably come with a certain degree, and that is we know the story. We know how most of this is going to play out. So I start watching it, and as much fun as I'm having in the moment, I also in my brain am thinking about what's coming. And so I get just as excited about what's going to happen as is what's happening. I wish we had someone, I wish Mattson would watch it, but I know he wouldn't enjoy it.
That doesn't know the story.
Yeah, I wish we had someone that doesn't know the story. It's kind of like Alec having you on for Last of Us, and even Mattson to a degree because he doesn't remember, but like the excitement, like in that perspective that you bring on something that you've never seen before, or just snippets of that probably didn't really matter or you don't remember at all. Like that perspective to me is very interesting because I think I would love to hear from someone that, so if you guys are out there and you want to jump on an episode, hit us up.
I was going to say, like, what I'm hearing is a contest for one of your watchers to join in.
Or if you don't want to be on the episode, I'm fine with that too. It's a new thing, but shoot us an email, throw us a message. Again, host of whatsourverdict.com or host of whatsourverdict.com. You can get on whatsourverdict.com, leave a message there. But tell us like kind of your thoughts on, because I'm tainted and I know what's coming. And so no matter how good the episode is, hell, no matter how good this season is, I always end up talking about how this season ends, and not just this season, but like way far in the future about the campaign. In fact, Casey and I were talking, I was like, I wonder how they're going to pull some of that off, because there's going to be some rights issues that come along later on in the show or in the story if they get that far, right? So I always have that viewpoint. So again, I don't think I was bored per se. I just think I'm always kind of, part of me is looking forward to what else is coming. And especially in these early episodes, because the early episodes, there's still some buildup, right? There's still some introduction because there is such new stuff. Alec, like you talked about, we're not just in Whitestone with a couple of pop-ins to Tal'Dorei. We're in Vasselheim. They're talking about going to the Fey realm. They're talking about, we're talking about some serious moving around, and they move around a lot in this part of the campaign to go get those vestiges of divergence. The different weapons and armor.
Realms, like it's not.
Yeah.
It now opens up to not just one world; it's worlds upon worlds upon worlds, right?
And different planes.
Yeah.
Your planes of existence. You're in different worlds. You're different continents. It's crazy the places they go.
And it's kind of like a comparison between like the Golden Compass or what, I don't remember that show, right? Where all of these worlds are opened up to each other that they can move in and out of. I don't know if you suffered from it, but like I know I have my favorite little moments, and so as the story goes, comparing live play to the show, I keep looking for those little moments. Like I was looking for Vax to shave off the beard, and then it didn't happen, and so I'm going to have to control my disappointment when my favorite little moments from live play don't make it into the show. And I don't think I thought about that until you just said that.
Yeah.
What I did, it was interesting. And so Scanlan starts to go through some stuff. You see that in these episodes.
Mm-hmm.
And he starts to voice like some discouragement. I caught it before JJ did. So like we were watching it and he said something really early on, and I don't even think it was in the third episode. I think it was in the second episode.
It was in the first that you caught it.
And I was like, oh, that came early. And then he didn't catch it until, was it the third episode when you're like, oh, that's starting kind of early. And I'm like, yeah, you didn't hear me say that like 20 minutes ago?
No, yeah, it was late in the second. He kind of has this moment where they're all kind of looking out over something, and I think they're in Whitestone, and he starts talking about running away and this, that, and the other. And I was like, oh, they're laying some groundwork early. For
spoilers.
Yeah, that's as far as I'll go. There's pay attention to Scanlan, because there's some groundwork being laid for some future elements of his story, which are, for Scanlan, some of the best storytelling in the whole campaign, in the whole live play. It ends up in a part of which might be season 3 that I'm not a fan of, but it's great for Scanlan. And Casey's right, I didn't catch it early on, and it's not that early in the campaign. It doesn't happen until way later.
And maybe it does and you don't realize it.
That could be true.
Because
Sam's a genius. That's why.
And I understand. I understand what's coming, and so I know what's driving it. So I don't think that I'm allowed to say that.
What's coming?
No, like what's driving.
Yeah, don't say what's driving. Yeah. But there's also someone in this episode, and this I can say this because they showed it in the episode. I'm not going to say what you missed or who that person was, but there was someone that runs into Scanlan in one of these 3 episodes that will come up in the future because they've changed a certain storyline that you don't. There's a bunch of information that those of us that know the campaign, you don't find out until way later in the campaign that they've introduced right now. I think it was in the early on of the end of episode 1 or early in episode 2. There's a person that shows up, looks at Scanlan, and then they leave, don't say anything, and then they leave. That person will be a big impact to this season, I'm assuming.
There's just a look on their face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, well, and Scanlan does say something that was weird, and then they move on. But like that will come into play. So that's a big deal. But they did show that. So they're really that's one. And I think that's the other piece about, I mean, there's 130 episodes of the live play at 4 to 5 hours a whack. So the amount of content and information is just not feasible in a show. That's one thing that impresses me about this show, and even more so this season, is how they can keep it as entertaining as they are, still cover so much information, and then they're able to pull out the relevant bits. And now they're starting to do some foreshadowing that they didn't do necessarily as obviously in the live play, but the show allows for it. So they're doing a really great job, especially this season so far, of finding the relevant pieces to these characters and the story to allow you to be interested. And that's why I want to find out from someone that has never seen the live play, doesn't know the story. How is this playing to someone that doesn't know? Because Casey and I now we catch shit, and I'm like, oh, that's genius. So I'm just curious, like what it would be like to. I wish I could go and undo all the information I have, but I say that almost everything that we watch. So
you really do.
Well, and we were having this conversation. I think I've now had it with both of you. I'm curious to see, like, I don't know. Just talking about how much story they have left. I don't know how. I can't even imagine how far into that story we can get in season 2, let alone where do you stop? Where do you transition? Because we're into a big bulk of vestige. So like just looking for vestiges come with backstory. There's fights along the way. There's different things that take a lot of time that are important to the story. And so it's going to be, I'm trying to wrap my head around how do you fit all that in? Really, I mean, they're guaranteed what, this season and then next they've already signed on for?
Yeah, they're greenlit for a 3rd season, but they haven't gone any further than that. I'm sure Amazon's waiting to see what this season does before they commit to anything further.
So it's going to be interesting because it's almost like it's the same as every TV show that starts, right? They start out, you almost have to plan for wrapping it up in a certain amount of episodes just in case you don't get another. And so I hope that as they move through the story, that doesn't play such a role that they start cutting some really like interesting things, or they don't start forcing story into a shorter amount of time to allow for, or because they don't have it guaranteed. Like, we don't know if we're going to have a 4th or a 5th or whatever. And so let's compress all of the information down.
Yeah. The one good news is Sam Riegel tweeted out today an image from Amazon that the show is #1 in America right now on Amazon.
Good.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So it's the #1 streamed thing in America, which makes me just really happy. But I'm with you, Casey. There's so much coming just in the Chroma Conclave arc that I'm like, if they're planning on ending it with season 2, that's a lot to cover in 9 more episodes. You know what I mean? Like, there's a ton. But then I also don't know how much value. Like, I think about it from a viewer that doesn't know what's coming, right? Like, if I put myself in that position to say, I don't know what's coming, let's pretend.
Okay.
If we end the season 2 in the middle of the Chroma Conclave battle. There's no payoff, right? Or we don't get to any kind of resolution. I don't know. I don't love seasons that end on huge cliffhangers that got to wait a year, right? So I worry about not finishing the Chroma Conclave arc. And there's still going to be a cliffhanger. Like, even if they ended the Chroma Conclave proper, right? There's still enough cliffhanger from the stories that they could tell along the way of getting the vestiges that I think you could still have somewhat of a cliffhanger and keep the interest peaked. But I personally hope that they have found a way to complete the main Chroma Conclave story by the end of season 2.
But do you think the only way that they could do that is to separate the vestiges and do the vestiges into season 3?
No, I think what they could do is there's some vestiges that they never actually used in the campaign
that they'll just get
that I don't know that they need for context and for storyline. Like, there's 2 or 3 of them that became more useful in later arcs, but they didn't really do anything during the Chroma Conclave story. There's only like 3 vestiges that make a difference in this storyline, at least through the and I'm sure that'll change because they have some creative license, and it's kind of pointless if we're chasing these vestiges and don't actually use them.
Because isn't it just Grog, Pike, Vax that use the vestiges during the Chroma Conclave?
No, Scanlan does. But that's it. So I think there's room to cut back on the 12 vestiges that they go and get. It's not that many, but there's a lot that they go and get in order to go and fight the dragon. So I think there's some room to pare back how many vestiges they go get, which would eliminate a third of the campaign storyline. So, all right, we've been talking about this for a long time. Let's wrap it up. Final thoughts real quick on the first 3 episodes. Just real brief. What were your thoughts? What are you looking forward to with the next 3? Alec, you first.
I am excited. I am excited to see where they go. I love the storytelling. I absolutely love the cast. What Matt Mercer has created is beyond anything I think you can really comprehend. It's just amazing. And so I am really excited to see where they go. For me, since I got into this a lot later than you guys, the actual storyline doesn't hold as much concern, I would say. So I'm less concerned about them kind of sticking to where they went in the live play and just watching as they get to kind of unfold into a new medium. So I'm just excited to see where they go with it. For example, I would love if they just said, okay, we're going to give up on vestiges after 1 or 2 and just went entirely turned left. But I'm just excited to see what they do. Love the show. Love that you made me watch it the first time around, JJ. But yeah, it's great.
Love it. Casey, what about you?
I'm excited to see where they go. I will say, I'm not a cartoon person, but this is one of the few cartoons that I enjoy. They've done really, really well with it. I'm excited to see where it goes. Episode 3 and beyond, I think will be great. I just had to make it through the setup episodes. So I expect the next time I'll have a lot more fun with it.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I'm looking forward to a lot. I'm kind of with both of you. I think there was some things that I'm like, man, it's always a struggle the first couple because you got to get the storyline set. Excuse me. And then, but I also am just completely stoked with where they're going. The last thing that I want to talk about that we didn't really talk about is, and I get why they're able to do it, but the voice cast that these guys put together is absolutely astounding. And I know it's funny, I'll start dropping names. The main and I cannot think of it, Thordak, the dragon. When he started talking, I almost instantly went, holy shit, that's Lance Reddick. Because I know video games and I know these animations, and so I know these voices so well that in case he's like, who? And I'm like, sorry. It's the nerd really comes out when we're doing it. And so again, these guys are top of their game in voice acting, so they're able to pull some of these people. But it's just amazing to hear. And there's some more major players coming with these future episodes. And so I get excited to see if I can pick out who's playing what character, the voice that's there. But I'm just excited for all of the stuff that's still to come. And we talk about how it can be distracting because we know what's coming, but at the same time, because I know what's coming, I can never let go of the excitement that I have for this show, because I also love that it introduces, there are people that can never sit down and watch the live play of Critical Role. It's just not for everyone, right? Even I have a hard time sometimes. We watch almost every episode. We've watched every episode they've ever made, with the exception of one shot. And sometimes we're like,
and also like it was binging, and that was all that was on the TV for months
with her catching up. Yeah, it was a lot, and it is a lot. So I love that this medium is providing people the ability to see these stories and see these characters that are just genius, and introducing them to this world that I fell in love with years ago. So I think that's my favorite part, but I'm stoked. I can't wait. I wish there were more than 9 more episodes. Like, I'm like, oh no, there's only 4 more sessions and only 9 more episodes. It's not fair. I want more. So I'm excited. And looking forward, and we'll see you guys next week to talk more about The Legend of Vox Machina Season 2. And before we hop off, Alec, tell everybody where they can find us.
This is my favorite part. Thank you for tuning in to our review of the first 3 episodes of Season 2 of the incredible show, The Legend of Vox Machina. Special thanks to Casey for agreeing to fill in for Matson, as he is in timeout for his poor reviews of the past. You are all welcome to vote to make the change permanent if you would like. Not that I condone such actions, but if you were to send, I don't know, an email to us at hosts@whatsourverdict.com, well, nobody could be blamed for instigating the replacement. In addition to having our own email address, because we're a big grown-up podcast, you are able to find us wherever you consume podcasts, Apple, Stitcher, Ghana, or YouTube. Smash that like button and share so we can help JJ live out his dream of meeting the Critical Role cast. To help fund this stream, check us out on Patreon, where every dollar earned goes towards getting Matson fixed. Special thanks to our current patron, Ginger Appreciation Society. The What's Our Verdict podcast is made possible by viewers like you. Last announcement is we had a very successful live stream from the one and only JJ, playing through The Last of Us, to go with the show that's currently being released on HBO. So be sure to tune in for that and turn on your notifications so you don't miss out on any content. Now, without further ado, I will send it back to the big fellow, the Wally of Wallop, JJ.
Oh, dude, it's starting to become my favorite part of the podcast, too. Just so you know.
That was just my favorite part of the podcast.
Yeah, I'm telling you. It's great. I look forward to the jokes every time. Yeah, live play, that's coming. Not this Tuesday, though, because I'm in Dallas this Tuesday. We're still doing the live Monday tomorrow. But I won't be playing the game, but I'll be back the week after. So do come check us out. With that, as always, we appreciate you tuning in. We'll catch you on the next one.
Hasta la vista, baby.
Cinemagic out.
Bye.
Whoa!